What would you do if you made $4.2 million in a single year just by writing 2 hours every day? Well, that's exactly what Dan Koh did, and I spent the last week reverse engineering his whole business from his content to his offers to his strategy. And in this video, I'm going to give you the 3 key takeaways that I got from that research to help you scale or start your own info business. And the first key takeaway is his content ecosystem. So Dan focuses on creating content and maximizing his reach because his business runs on selling courses, not services. Unlike coaching, where you have to personally fulfill every sale by working with clients one-on-one, a course requires zero fulfillment after it's created. It sells on autopilot. This means Dan's number one priority isn't delivering a service, it's getting more eyeballs on his brand so more people buy his course. So instead of spending time on fulfillment, he focuses on 1, writing content to reach new people, 2, building an audience so he has a steady flow of buyers, and 3, creating marketing systems that sell his course on repeat. And if you're familiar with $100 million offers by Alex Hormozi, he also explains this concept in depth, which is called the sales to fulfillment continuum. You can check it out on page 83. And it essentially says that done for you services, easy to sell but hard to fulfill on. Done with you services like coaching are kind of like in the middle, so medium to sell, medium to fulfill, and then courses are very hard to sell and easy to fulfill. Now, for example, if you have like a marketing business, for example, like a services slash done for you like marketing agency, they'll create a strategy for your ads. They'll create all of your ad creatives. They'll do all of that. And the customer really has to do nothing. So very valuable and very easy to sell someone on that. For coaching, done with you services, we'll coach slash train you on how to create good ads together. But you have to create strategy, create the ad, and do all that for yourself. More difficult to sell than doing nothing, but nevertheless, a great offer. And then courses, do it yourself. We will essentially give you a course on how to create good ads, but you have to spend time going through the course, create the strategy, create the ad, and do all of that on your behalf. So much more difficult of a sell. So it's similar to really the differences between a restaurant and a book. So number 1, a restaurant requires constant work. You have to cook food, serve customers, and manage daily operations. Every new order means more work, and if you stop working, the income stops. Whereas a book is created once and is sold over and over again. Once it's finished, people can buy it anytime and you don't have to touch it ever again. So Dan chooses to sell the book, not run the restaurant. That way he can focus on creating content so more people buy, instead of spending his time on the operations of his business. And this really leads into what is the content ecosystem. So Dan maximizes his reach by repurposing his content across multiple platforms instead of creating everything from scratch. Instead of writing a newsletter, filming a YouTube video, recording a podcast, and making social media posts separately, he follows a content repurposing system that allows him to turn one piece of content into many. Here's how his content flow works. Number 1, he starts by writing a newsletter every day. This is the foundation of his content, so writing each day captures his best ideas in written form. Number 2, that newsletter becomes a long-form YouTube video. He expands on the ideas and explains them in more depth. Number 3, that YouTube video is turned into a podcast. Very simple, you just kind of take the audio version of it. And then 4, clips from the YouTube video and podcast are repurposed into short-form content. So Instagram Reels and carousels, LinkedIn carousels, and Twitter/X threads. So very simple. They all lead into one another, and they all have varying forms of attention. And the next big key takeaway is the cold to warm audience continuum. And this is essentially how Dan nurtures his leads. So nurturing leads is kind of like the process of keeping their attention, building trust, and gradually increasing their desire to buy. It ensures that when you're finally ready to purchase, you are the first and only choice. So people need to really know, like, and trust you to buy from you. Imagine if a random stranger walked up to you on the street, tried to sell you something, you'd probably ignore them and think they were trying to scam you. The same rules apply to online business. It takes time to get to know someone and build that trust so that they feel like they know, like, and trust you before they buy. And so this leads us into the cold to warm audience continuum, which is essentially how Dan turns cold leads, so people who don't know about him, who don't recognize his face, don't recognize his name, into warm leads, which are kind of like raving fans and are repeat watchers of his content. So at the coldest edges, you have a random person scrolling on Instagram, sees your content for the first time. They're like, who's this? I've never seen this person before. You want to grab their attention with engaging, valuable content. The next stage is they've seen a few of your posts or some of your YouTube videos, but haven't really engaged with you. So I keep seeing this person pop up. Seems interesting, but I don't know if they're legit. You want to show up with valuable content and start to engage with them. So comments, emails, DMs. The next stage is they've been following up you for a week/months, sign up for your newsletter, and read your emails. So this person's content is really valuable. I'm interested, but not sure if I should buy. So in this step, you want to build more trust by demonstrating credibility and authority. And then at the warmest, they've consumed your content for a while, trust you, and just need a final nudge. So I trust this person. I just need to know if this is the right time for me. So your next steps are make buying a no-brainer by demonstrating clear value and social proof. So put simply, just make valuable content, things they enjoy/relate with, that people like to return to and watch. So, and what Dan does really well here is that going back to his content ecosystem, the newsletter and long form YouTube and podcasts are his best attention asset. So his best attention retaining asset. So by the nature of the content, so the newsletters, the long form YouTube and the podcasts, it takes a much bigger investment of attention and time to actually consume this content. And if they have a positive reinforcement from that concept or the content, then they will have a much more positive reinforcement with your brand. As to where short form reels, LinkedIn carousels, Twitter X threads, you don't really have that personal connection, the emotional connection with that brand. So again, the newsletter, the long form YouTube, and the podcast are a core component of moving people across the cold to warm audience continuum. And so here's a great clip of Dan actually explaining this concept.
Is on Twitter, one tweet is going to hold their attention for maybe like 10 seconds, right? And so if you post 3 tweets a day, you maybe have 30 seconds of their attention. And there's no like nurturing going on there really. There's no like investment that they're giving to you. Same thing goes with shorts, reels, etc. I'm not saying those things are not useful for the purpose that they serve, but with newsletter or YouTube video, they're giving you 5, 10, 20, in podcasts sometimes even like an hour of their attention to you, and that stacks up over time. That's where the nurturing comes into play. And so you can think of the attention that you're holding as the trust that you're building with that person, and the amount of trust you have with a person, the easier it's going to be for them to trust you when buying a product or service from you.
And so the last key concept is actually pre-selling the buyer, which is essentially people who already have been sold through your content and already want to buy even before they land on the landing page, versus the skeptic, which is again like in the last example, where a random stranger approaches you on the street and you think they're going to scam you, or you just ultimately ignore them, right? So there's 3 requirements for you to actually pre-sell someone in your content, and that is number 1, to sell them on the vehicle, number 2, address internal beliefs, so beliefs that they believe about themselves, why they can't achieve the transformation, and then 3, address external beliefs, which are beliefs that they believe about the world, about their circumstances, that wouldn't allow them to achieve the transformation. So number 1, the vehicle is the specific method or business model that is used to achieve the transformation. So if you're trying to get fit, there's different forms of exercise. So the vehicle would be bodybuilding, the vehicle could be powerlifting, weightlifting, things like that. Again, another example is like if you're in the make money online space, it would be Amazon FBA or drop shipping or e-com, things like that. So, Dan argues that the one person business model is the best starting point for aspiring entrepreneurs. It's a simpler, more accessible alternative to traditional businesses that require capital, a team, and complex systems to start. Again, to support this, he uses himself as a case study, showing how he built a multi-million-dollar brand by following this exact model. He further reinforces his claim by referencing Sam Altman, OpenAI's founder, who predicts the rise of billion-dollar one-person businesses, adding credibility to the model's potential. So again, he's reframing and positioning his unique mechanism or his vehicle as a credible offer. Number 2 is internal beliefs. So again, the personal fears or limiting beliefs that stop someone from believing they can succeed with the transformation. So this is internally things about themselves. So they're either not skilled enough, they don't have enough money, they don't know what to sell. And so he reframes business success as problem solving rather than having a perfect idea from the start, proving that you don't need to know exactly what to sell up front. You discover it by sharing ideas, testing what resonates, and refining your offer based on feedback. So again, telling a story about how he did it and how he achieved business success. For those who feel they aren't skilled enough, he debunks the myth that expertise is required to start. Instead, he emphasizes that you only need to be a few steps ahead of your audience, and skills are developed through action, not before it. By consistently learning and sharing, you become the expert over time. And then the last one, external beliefs. So things they believe about the world, about their circumstances, that they can succeed with the transformation. For example, the market isn't good right now. I need a large audience to make money, things like that. And so he reframes business success again as skill-based, not money-based, proving that with his own journey, that expertise and execution matter more than upfront capital. He also debunks the idea that a large audience is necessary, sharing how he made $3,000 with just 40 followers, emphasizing that the right offer is more important than the audience size. And then for those who feel they don't know how to market, he simplifies the process. No need for paid ads or SEO. Instead, he positions social media as an idea testing ground, where posting consistently and learning by doing is the fastest way to build momentum. And so the key principle here for pre-selling people on your offer is really ties back to one key principle, which is storytelling is the most powerful tool in persuasion. So Dan uses stories to break beliefs and shift perspectives. And it really works because number one, he makes success feel achievable by sharing his own experiences. Number two, he creates an emotional connection by proving transformation is possible. And then number three, he turns abstract concepts and abstract beliefs into reality through relatable examples. And this ultimately allows the viewer to visualize or imagine themselves in that situation or story. Or put simply, it allows the viewer to buy into a story that they see themselves in. And so if you like this video, you could also check out the one I did on Ed Lawrence here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.